True Footy Podcast 19. We're back down to just us two for the week. We've lost Joycey temporarily down to Bunbury. We will make this a pretty short one compared to our usual podcast. We usually get them out for like 40, 60 minutes, don't we? I think we can probably smash it out in 20. I know you're expecting a big call, which you can go and take if you want midway through the podcast. I really doubt you're going to test positive though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't think I will either. I'm starting to get less and less optimistic.
On that note, we'll dive right into the podcast. I think this week we'll just go through really quickly the first week of the finals, and then we'll have a look at the upcoming semi-finals. What did you think of the first week of the finals? Do you think it lived up to expectations?
There's only one close game, which is a bit disappointing. I was hoping for a few barn burners, particularly. I was hoping Geelong Melbourne would be a real rip snorter of a game, but unfortunately, Geelong completely underwhelmed.
They did. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I think it's kind of a myth that finals need to be. Well, I know, like, if you look historically, finals aren't always that close, and for me, this first week of the finals was still a shitload better than the last year's. And similarly, the last year, the Eagles and Port were the only good game of the first week, the one that ended in a draw. And I hope it doesn't end up like the whole final series last year where there was just all beltings except one game. And I'm confident it won't be. I reckon we got some good games coming up. The Tigers and Hawks on Thursday night was a pretty highly anticipated game, but it kind of just went to expectation, didn't it?
Yeah, it was just, all it did was show Richmond's clearly a level above everyone else. I don't think Hawthorn were particularly shit, it's just Richmond were clearly better than...
There are some people who are saying that the Hawks are the pretenders out of all the top 8 teams, and Geelong.
Realistically, they probably might be, but at the same time, you can never discount a team led by Clarko. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they won this week, went into the prelim looking shit hot, and gave the Eagles a red. Eagles.
You reckon they're still a contender than the Hawks?
I'm still slightly worried about the impunity of my ass. Let's put it that way. But I'm feeling pretty safe.
Well, you do get a tattoo on your ass if the Hawks make the grand final. Yeah. So I'll be very torn if the Eagles and Hawthorn do play off at a prelim next week. I'd want the Eagles to make the grand final naturally, but I also want to see you get a tattoo on your ass live on the podcast.
I've only specifically cheered for the Eagles twice in my life, and I think both times they've been versing Hawthorn. I think the other time was in like 2015, where it was like, if you guys had beaten them, we could have played you in a big final or something like that. A few years ago, I remember, where I wanted a Derby grand final. And something like that.
Yeah,
I think that was the only other time. Actually, it might have been ladder position or something, even I can't fully remember.
I think you had it right the first time. The Eagles belted Hawthorn in the first week, which would have set up a Derby grand final if Freo had made it, but we all know how that turned out.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. So you think Tigers pretty much a level above everyone?
It's theirs to lose for sure.
Yeah, that's the way I'm feeling as well.
It's more if they stuff up, I think at this point it's the only way they're not going to get the flag.
Which is possible. I mean, the last time we were this confident about who was going to win the flag, it was 2008, and the Cats went down to the Hawks. And no one really gave the Hawks a real chance going into that game, and they won by like 4 goals in the end, I think. This year, I don't know. I don't really... The West Coast on paper have been the second best performed team, but they've got their own issues, don't they? Like injuries and stuff like that.
No Shepherd, who's a low-key, decent player for the Eagles. He's
exactly.
Not as lauded as some of the other guys, but he does have an impact.
The other qualifying final was a pretty interesting one between the Pies and the Eagles. As you said, it was probably the only good game. I mean, as an Eagles fan, I wasn't enjoying watching it, that's for sure. I actually felt like the Pies were probably the better team for most of that game.
Even me and the old boy were just watching it, and he reckoned Collingwood were the better team that day. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Although I got to say, as an Eagles fan, watching that, the commentary was so one-sided. But I'm pretty used to that, to be fair. It's not just the Eagles; they're like that too. It's just Victorian commentators commentating against Fremantle, West Coast. Maybe not GWS, but like Adelaide Port as well. If they're coming up against a big Victorian side, it's just so annoying. I thought James Brayshaw was really laying it on thick the whole game. He was saying, Collingwood, nobody gave them a chance going into this game. They were written off, and they're going to pull off one of the finals upsets of the decade and stuff like that. And I was like,
so I don't think it was that much of a write-off.
No, I think most people, to be honest, were 50-50 on this, maybe 60-40 West Coast, if that.
Yeah, you give the edge to Eagles, realistically. Like,
yeah.
I don't remember looking at the odds, but I think it was like nothing ridiculous, like $1.60 to like a $2.30, $2.40 type of thing.
I had a strong feeling. I'm a pessimistic Eagles fan, so I do always sort of prepare for the worst. But I just had a feeling that Collingwood were going to be too good. But I did think their Achilles heel was going to be the fact that they had 3 underdone players come into their side. 3 being Treloar, Goldsack, and even Pendlebury was the third one because he was pretty crook last week.
That's right. He had the gut issue.
Yeah. So I suspected they would just roll over at the end. That's pretty much what happened, to be honest. But to be fair, the Eagles do deserve credit because they've had a real gutsy edge this year and they haven't rolled over.
Fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's pretty much been the difference between them being a mid-final side to them being second on the ladder. So they do deserve the credit. But
definitely. Especially Kennedy and Darling. Like Kennedy looked cooked the whole game, and then he just comes in that last quarter.
He's another one that will be way better for the run as well.
Exactly. This win was so much more important to the Eagles, probably, I think, because if you just didn't win, you just weren't making the grandy. No offense, I don't think, but now you're genuine. You set up well, all your guys get more rest, which Kennedy's and stuff the world clearly need.
Yeah. What did you think about the comments made by Tony Jones during the week that said that the Eagles were a waste of a grand final spot if they made it? What do you think about that? As a Dockers fan, as a neutral, semi-neutral?
Definitely hard. Like, you know me, I'm the first one to get on the Eagles, but like, because he was playing because they shit at the MCG, like, they haven't been this year. Last time they were there, they killed Collingwood.
Yeah, that's true. And
this year, they haven't been a joke in Melbourne, that's for sure. Last year, I could understand that angle a bit more, but even then it's the way it's played out. They made the grandy. I
would have taken a lot more from his comments if he wasn't a fucking Collingwood fan. Like, seriously, he's a blatant Collingwood supporter, and he's just said that after they've lost. Like, how bitter do you want to come off as? I won't touch the comments too much because I'm an Eagles fan and I just look bitter. But, like, come on. Like, I thought it was pretty unprofessional.
Yeah, it's definitely excessive coming from him, for sure.
Yeah.
Even Eddie stuff, like, I don't necessarily disagree with what Eddie said generally, but the fact it's Eddie saying it after Collingwood lost, it does...
Are you referring to...
the fixturing
The stuff. Fixturing comments, yeah. So it looks like Collingwood will go in... if they beat GWS, the winner of Pies and GWS this week will go in as the only team to have a 6-day break this whole final series.
Yeah.
It is pretty unfortunate for them.
But even the fact where he said it's a simple switch by switching the days of the prelims around, like, that's a valid point. All the people getting on him is like, it's not an invalid point.
Yeah.
It just happens to be coming from the most privileged team in football. It seems a bit rich, but the point itself is there, even though the person making it's a bit...
Yeah.
Cop it, you bloody lucky bastard, really, sort of thing.
Maguire was a bit of a highlight reel on Saturday night. Poor guy, like he gets zoomed in on more than any other like crowd member I've ever seen.
I was just sitting there going, someone's going to make a meme of this guy at some stage.
Yeah.
So I've seen a couple.
And the Cats went down to the D's. They have lost their last 7 games that have followed a bye, which is pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
And I think their recent finals record's pretty atrocious as well, isn't it? Isn't it like 2-7 or something?
Yeah, I'm
13?
Not too sure. I'm not surprised though. They lost 2 and won 1 last year.
Yeah.
That was another one where they came off the bye and they played Richmond in second versus third, the first second qualifying final, and they got absolutely obliterated. And no one saw that coming. And I think people forget because of how dominant Richmond have been since then. But Richmond were underdogs in that game, and nobody expected them to just belt everyone in the finals like they did. But yeah, on a tangent. But yeah, the Cats, like...
They did have a few guys that had the worst games of their lives, to be fair to them, like Duncan and Dangerfield. Well, Duncan probably wasn't the worst game of Dangerfield's life, but it wasn't vintage Dangerfield.
You're talking about against Melbourne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Duncan was terrible.
They did have their opportunities, but they just weren't good enough. Do you think it's kind of back to the drawing board for the Cats? They've been linked to a lot of players already. Like, they're clearly... going hard in the upcoming trade period. They've
delisted a few today, actually.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Aaron Black, Cramery, Corey Gregson,
yes,
some guys.
Yeah.
But then there's even more of it, like, because even Matty Lloyd came out after the game saying they need with a list of 10 guys they need to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty extreme. Like,
but you can understand the point, because even in a different article, I think it was saying how their bottom 12 is where their issues lie, which is definitely the case.
Yeah.
Because if you list them from the top end, it sounds like a ripping team. Like Dangerfield, Gaz, Selwood, even Kelly, Menegola, Tom Stewart's really good. Harry Taylor's still got a bit of something. Hawkins. They've got guys.
It's spread over the ground fairly well as well. It's just a depth issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've been linked to Jack Stephen, Dowhouse, and Gary Rowan already this offseason, and they could potentially get all three. Dowhouse is a free agent.
Dowhouse seems to be almost not quite a lock, but he's definitely gone from the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they might have to give up a bit more to get Stephen. I'm pretty sure he's contracted.
I realistically think Stephen probably won't come into play unless they lose Kelly. That's personally what my gut. What I've read everything.
That's what I'm thinking, though. The fact that they're pushing for guys like Stephen, if it is indeed true, is possibly because they're preparing to let go of Kelly.
Yeah.
So
they're probably preparing. I don't know how much it's going to cost for a WA team to get Kelly off their hands at this stage, but they're probably preparing to on-sell that package and maybe something else for Stephen.
I mean, it makes sense for them to sell high while Kelly's contracted, because if he goes home in a year from now, he's not going to be a free agent. He'll just be an uncontracted player. So,
and the thing is as well, almost makes sense for, like, particularly Freo, probably more so than Eagles, because Eagles are in a better position as a team at the moment, but for Dockers to probably almost gamble and pay a bit more than maybe they should to get him. Just so they know he's on the team, but he's here, they can give him a year to ingratiate himself with the boys, play well.
Particularly if Lachie Neale goes,
exactly,
as a bit of like ready-made midfield talent for sure.
I even saw like that Damien Barrett if segment thing that he does. He was saying if Lachie Neale's gone, Dockers need to ramp up on Kelly, not a want. He's not a want, he's a need at that point.
Yeah, I think that's actually a rare fair call from Damien Barrett. Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with him. I screenshotted a few actually that I disagreed with from that article.
Oh yeah. Does he? It's called sliding doors. Does he know what sliding doors moments mean? They're like completely wrong. Sliding doors moments are like if this had happened, what would the present now look like? But his is just like random
future predictions.
It's just like he doesn't understand what sliding doors means at all. Moving on really quickly, the other team that could potentially be going back to the drawing board this year is Sydney. Very very underwhelming performance, and just completely battered and didn't show up in that final against GWS. And that's a crosstown rival final. You know what I mean? Like that's
in your home. It was their home ground as well. Like,
exactly.
This is like Eastern Sydney, like posh part of Sydney, where it's all the people that get around the Swans. And then Bogan, Western Sydney come in and beat the fancy bastards.
The Bogans. I mean, Davis just completely shut out Franco. He did a great job. But what do you think? Like I think it's almost time we start reflecting on this Franklin deal that he went when he went to Sydney, and they cost him like what, 10 million over 9 years. I mean, he's still got a few years left, but they haven't won a premiership yet, and don't look like doing so at all soon.
And now it's sounding like they have cap issues, even because you're hearing these Jake Lloyd rumours just because it sounds like Gold Coast have more money to throw at him.
Yeah,
so they might have to let someone go to be able to pay a Lloyd.
Yep. I mean, they've got Heaney, Mills, Florent, Hayward, all these guys coming up from below as well. They're going to have another good academy pick this year. They're going to have the talent, but you're right, they're just not going to be able to pay them.
Similar to GWS.
I mean, that's probably why Ryan... Well, it's not why Ryan's going to leave, but, I mean, he's another one that will leave. So I mean, that's how they lost Mitchell.
Yeah.
Tom Mitchell, so...
Because he was getting 60 touches a game or whatever, bloody seconds for him.
Yeah, he did, yeah. All right, we'll just have a quick look at this upcoming first final, mate. There's a lot of talk about some straight set action this weekend. Between the Hawks,
two teams lose the qualifiers. To be fair,
I suppose that's true, but this year it feels particularly open. I actually think the Demons are the stronger side than the Hawks going into this game, on form partly. Well, the Demons are close to the form team in the competition.
Realistically, the Demons are the best shot at Richmond at this point, I reckon. The issue is them getting to the Grandy, but if they get there, assuming everything else is all the same, they're the best shot at Richmond, I feel. Like
Richmond, I think they have a game style that's quite conducive to finals. They're tough and they're quick, and that's exactly how finals are. It's scrappy. I mean, they've also got the skill, so they're pretty well-rounded as a team. The last time they did meet, the Hawks smashed Melbourne in round 4. It was 11 goals. Tom Mitchell only had 24 possessions, and they still won by 11 goals, which is pretty bizarre actually, considering the year that he's had. From memory, the Demons started that game like really in control and then just got belted. But I think they're just a different team than they were at the start of the year.
I was even reading a thing today where they talked about that game as one of their key learning experiences, where they've taken what happened to them in that game and learned from it. The Geelong game in round 1 or 2 as well is probably another.
Yep.
They're a different team. Like
round 1, yeah.
They were the trendy pretenders till about round 8 or 9 when it started clicking for them. Everyone was like, "What's happened to Melbourne?"
Yeah, for sure. In terms of injury news, Stratton's probably almost certainly going to miss.
Yeah.
What kind of effect do you think that will have on the Hawks?
They seem to be a next man up kind of team.
Yeah.
Like, and who would have thought at the start of the season you're talking about Stratton as a fringe All-Australian? That's true. Yeah. It'd be system that's helped him. He's a jet, but it'd be definitely the system and structures that have helped him get the best out of himself, I'd say.
Yep. Personally, I don't think that Hawks midfield has what it takes against Melbourne. The toughness. Like, I know that Mitchell is the best contested... Well, actually, I wouldn't say he's the best contested player in the league. Best clearance mid in the league. But, I mean, even though Amiro and Mitchell had really good first finals, like, Richmond just belted them. Well, not belted, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It just wasn't enough. I don't think the Hawks are going to be able to cope with Melbourne. I'm going to tip them. I'm going to tip the D's by 7 points.
Yeah, I'd give the edge to the Demons for sure. I'd probably... in that 10-20 point margin range.
Yeah, I mean, the Hawks are kind of getting written off left, right and centre, and that's probably exactly where they want to be. But, yeah.
It's one of those ones, logic says Melbourne, but at the same time, you wouldn't be surprised if Hawks clicked, realistically.
Yeah. All right, we'll quickly move into the other semi-final, Collingwood and GWS. They last met in round 2, and the Giants actually won that by 16 points. But again, like the Melbourne comparison, I think Collingwood are a much stronger team than they were at the start of the year. They were the ones as well who took like 4 to 6 weeks to really click. I think they belted Adelaide in early mid rounds and haven't really looked back. And as we said, they were probably the strongest side last week against West Coast. They just I think they got tired and just couldn't cope. Like the Eagles mids started to outwork them, despite being the opposite for the last 3 quarters. And I felt like they were pretty sloppy as well, the Pies. I felt like they had a lot of critical chances and they made mistakes. Like some of them were unlucky, like Chris Mayne getting falconed with that soccer. Like I thought that was pretty unlucky. It was just the bounce of the ball, and I guess it's a long-winded way of saying I think the Pies have what it takes, but on the travel factor coming back from Perth, will they be able to run out 4 quarters?
Yeah, I'd still give him a red hot shot. Got to say credit to Zach Williams who came back. He had a really good game by the sounds. First game back from ruptured Achilles.
He did. I mean,
pretty short stint from the shelf for such an injury too. He went pretty well.
The Giants. Wasn't it not ACL?
It was an Achilles.
Was it Achilles?
I read an article that said Achilles. I thought ACL, but I read a thing today that said Achilles.
My mistake.
Yeah.
But yes,
that coming back as well. He was impressive.
Yeah, he was fantastic. If the commentators just would stop blowing him for 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's fair.
To be honest, I thought it would be a mistake bringing him back in, but he played really well. But I mean, that's another example of how, the Pies probably got a lot out of that game in the sense that Goldsack now has the whole game under his belt, and Treloar as well. They've got the kilometres in the legs. That's probably better for them to have played and lost than have not played and lost. You know what I mean?
I've even heard they're trying to push Darcy Moore for the GWS game as well.
Yeah, it's a risk. The other thing is if they wait and bring him back against Richmond, is that any better? Is it almost better to have him play a game? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Get him in while you got him, if they're available and you think they can contribute.
Yeah. Josh Kelly is, in terms of players that are going to miss, a pretty significant one. But, the Giants just too good against the Swans. They didn't even... They played the whole game virtually a man down. And, I guess Sydney didn't show up, but...
Yeah, so I think Collingwood would definitely be less lethargic than...
Sydney. Yeah. Does the winner...
100,000 people at the MCG cheering for him.
Yeah. The home crowd advantage is going to be monstrous. What's your tip
for that game?
For Collingwood GWS.
Oh, it's a tough one to pick, but I'm going to say Collingwood, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go with you there. The home ground advantage rather is going to be the tipping factor. I know the Giants won the last clash here, but they're not a particularly strong MCG side. And
also, I think Kelly's a real barometer for him as well. Like even during the year when he was out, people were really worried about him. But then as soon as he came back, they went on a run and were a legitimate shot again.
Yeah. So Collingwood by how many?
I'll say 2 goals.
Yeah.
Tops, 2 goals, 12.
Yeah. I've been 50-50 on this all week. I can see it going either way. But I'm going to stick with my pre-finals prediction and say that Collingwood will beat them by 10 points. One last question before we finish up this mini podcast. Can anyone beat Richmond?
Melbourne, but a lot of things are going to have to go right for them, including a win in the West.
How likely do you think they are of coming to Perth off it'll be a 7-day break. It'll be an 8-day break. So they will have, like, hypothetically, if Melbourne beat Hawthorn, they'll have an 8-day break coming to Perth. It'll probably be a day game, and they beat them there a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Minus Kennedy and Darling.
Yeah, which is important.
And Melbourne didn't have Viney.
Yeah.
And maybe someone else.
I'd say Kennedy and Darling are more important than probably almost any other team's injuries.
So you're going with Melbourne, the only real challenger to Richmond?
Yeah, but whether or not they get past Eagles is another category entirely.
Or Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, mate. Well, I think we did well for a 20-minute podcast. We will do our best to get back here on next week, and we'll talk about the prelims and wrap up the semi-finals. And if you're listening, thanks for doing so. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. You can also listen to these podcasts on iTunes and Spotify. Thank you very much.
Auf Wiedersehen.